Well, we were waiting for this. China, embarrassed on an international stage after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's defiant visit to Taiwan this week, sent 5 missiles into Japanese-controlled waters today, another 4 into Taiwanese waters. A show of force that included 10 warships and more than 100 planes and bombers in what is being called the largest military exercise there ever. Was this a face-saving measure? Maybe an act of defiance in China's own right? Or was it the start of something bigger? Brent Sadler, 26-year Navy veteran and senior research fellow at the Center for National Defense, joins us on NewsNation Tonight. Do you think China's moves are posturing here, or are they all building to something?
Well, thanks for having me on. And aloha, I'm actually on the road traveling in Hawaii, talking to some of the folks that are responsible for watching the Chinese activities. And it's a combination of things. One, this is actually follows on about a year's worth of heightened military operations, air and naval. It's been going on since October of last year. And so in that respect, it's the military, the Chinese military, continuing to practice and to exercise how they'd actually execute operations on Taiwan. And this also fits into their typical annual exercise routine. About this time of year, every year, they do joint large-scale exercises. That being said, the firing of missiles over Taiwan in numbers, not by accident, but by design, that's highly provocative, dangerous, and irresponsible. And that's something that we haven't seen before. The last Taiwan crisis, the third Taiwan crisis, was back in 1996, and there was one errant missile that crossed over Taiwan just briefly. This is very different and very dangerous. And so it's a precursor, it's a training evolution for something that could be coming in the near future. It does provide some face saving, but principally the messaging part is an internal one, not really going to be very sustainable as the world reacts.
While all of this is going on, the U.S. seems to be as cautious as they can be right now. They canceled some scheduled Minuteman missile tests that were supposed to take place out there. Let's listen to what John Kirby said at the White House today.
As China engages in destabilizing military exercises around Taiwan, the United States is demonstrating instead the behavior of a responsible nuclear power by reducing the risks of miscalculation and misperception.
Putting aside whether this decision was just prudence or the U.S. backing down to China, do you think there's a need for China to make an example out of the U.S. in this situation? They really haven't been embarrassed on the world stage like this in a long time.
No, I don't think that really plays into this as much as the Biden team might want to think it is. And it was a mistake to cancel the missile test. It was a mistake to cancel the earlier missile test as well, for much the same reason, except to tamp down any tensions with the Russians as they were invading Ukraine. So it's a play that really doesn't signal anything but weakness to Moscow and Beijing to hold these type of exercises that have been planned for many months in advance. But again, the Chinese were going to do this exercise. They were going to do operations like this. They just were given a pretext that gives them a little extra benefit in messaging to say it's in response to Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan.
Brent, in your professional opinion, do you think that U.S. and Chinese relations have got to get worse before they get better? Does there have to be something that drives us to the negotiating table to settle whatever this is?
Well, I don't think there's anything that we've got right now that would compel the Chinese to think that they need to come to the table to give anything. We're just not playing a very strong hand at all, and we need to. And that's probably the first thing, is to actually start being present, both in rhetoric as well as in military presence. Now, Indo-PACOM out here in Hawaii has done a really good job of maintaining a pretty sizable naval presence, but it's not matched with diplomacy, and it's not matched with leadership coming out of Washington, D.C. And without that, it looks like the United States lacks commitment and also direction, and the Chinese are going to continue to take advantage of that. So that's got to be remedied first before we can even hope the Chinese are going to come to a negotiating table or even deal with us in any real trustworthy sense.
Brent, we've talked about how the U.S. feels. We've tried to figure out how China feels. How do you think the Taiwanese feel about all this? I was reading something from BBC this morning about how the Taiwanese people have been dealing with this sort of Chinese intimidation for some 70 years.
Oh, yes. there's a thread in American politics that goes back several decades. Some of it's because of choices the Taiwan government has made, that they're not going to make the commitments and resources and also fight against or resist a mainland Chinese invasion. That now is very out of date. The Taiwanese people identify as Taiwanese and not as Chinese, has been historically the case. Additionally, the Taiwanese government is spending more money in defense. They're buying things that are not very flashy, high-tech, in low number kind of equipment like modern fighters, but they're buying the types of things like mines. They're buying the types of asymmetric capabilities that actually cause the Chinese war planners a lot of heartache. Things like javelins, things like anti-ship cruise missiles that can be launched from the back of trucks. Some of these they've had, but they continue to build them up in numbers and invest more at. That's exactly the type of investments that we need to see the Taiwanese military get, and they're doing it. And so I would be in the school of thought that the Taiwanese people would resist very vigorously if the Chinese were to attack them. And I think there'd be a lot of countries that would come to their aid, quite frankly.